Anyone new here that would like to introduce themselves?
I'm new. Hi, I'm Alyssa.
Alyssa? Yeah, go ahead, Alyssa.
Hi, I'm Alyssa. I live in Illinois. I joined the Slack pretty recently, and then Colleen reached out, and now I'm here.
We're glad to have you. Yeah, I got to hear a bit more about where you were coming from before we started the live recording. So we hope to see you more in our Slack workspace, Alyssa.
Oh, thanks.
We are now live.
We are live. Great. Welcome to Humanity First Movement Weekly Update, Sunday night. Tonight's theme is the game plan for the general election. Brought to you by Candidate Support with HFM Candidate Support in conjunction with Humanity Forward Candidate Support. We will be joined by Tom Jeffrey on a call. He's a candidate support lead at Humanity Forward. So this slide presentation has a link to it, which is shared in the Slack and will be shared in the chat also. And so when you have the link to the slide presentation, you have the links to all the things we're going to be talking about in this presentation. How to volunteer for candidates, how to get to the candidate calendar, all the things. Okay, so we are the network that evolved from the Yang 2020 volunteers, and we're growing as we're having people join who weren't part of that. We're working with Humanity Forward, Yang's nonprofit, to define and grow that energy and see what that means to be Yang Gang post the 2020 campaign. Because it's not just that a lot of us are Yang Gang for 2024, but there's more to it than that. This is a bigger, broader movement, and we're converting that passion to something sustainable. Okay, so as you join with us, we'll connect you to folks in your state and local area. We'll onboard you to explore our working groups and match you with candidates who inspire you and direct you, help you find ways to support them. And we watch movies together and we hang. You'll experience that tonight after this meeting. On Friday, our movie night, we'll be watching The Social Dilemma, and that'll be screening 9 p.m. Eastern. Coincidentally, California Yang Gang is also screening The Social Dilemma, and they're starting that at 7 p.m. Pacific, so that'll be at 10 p.m. Eastern. So if you miss out on our starting of the screening, you can watch it with the California Yang Gang. And both of those screenings are on the community calendar. So we have a vision of a future where a data-driven government prioritizes intrinsic human value and quality of life. And our mission is to amplify the voice of the people, to put integrity and humanity first. We champion policies that value human well-being over profit and tackle economic inequity at its roots, creating opportunities for communities to thrive. We engage in elected officials, advance candidates, and support community leaders by galvanizing a broad coalition and mobilizing a grassroots movement. We operate at all times through our Humanity First values. That's humanity first, building on a mission to build a new economy that puts people first, but puts people over profits, and that acknowledges people's intrinsic value over what their earnings are, over what their labor is. Everyone has value as human. We strive for honesty and integrity above all, and transparency. We have a mindset of abundance, that there's enough to go around, that someone's success doesn't mean someone else can't also succeed. We believe in grace and forgiveness, especially in the political arena. This is something that we lead as in practicing that. It can be hard to find, but that's at the core of our ethos. And with policy-wise, we're not left, not right, but forward. Drawing people from across the political spectrum and creatively designing policies that are nonpartisan. And our other value is math. Math that also stands for Make America Think Harder. We love numbers, we have a rational approach to the issues, and we're not afraid to make course adjustments when the data changes. So we really follow the truth in the numbers and follow the metrics so that we are what we aspire to by what we measure. Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Not Left, Not Right, but Forward. Tonight's broadcast is our game plan where we're going to be talking about promoting our candidates. And we welcome Americans of all political backgrounds. If you've never had a political home, we welcome you too. What we love about our endorsed candidates is how their policies that are not left, not right, but forward are really drawing in volunteers who maybe hadn't volunteered for a Democrat or for a Republican or, you know, picking sides. Here we are with endorsed candidates that kind of appeal to people who aren't side takers. You know, it's forward and logical. So come join us. All right. So here, are you ready for it? Here's the game plan for the next 5 weeks to the general election. And that 5 weeks is a little bit of a misleading number because in 1 week, early voting starts in states like California and Arizona. So we have between 1 and 5 weeks to the general election. This is the outline of our game plan. We'll talk about social media engagement, volunteer resources, states that are taking action, and ending with tips for the best phone banking experience ever. All right. In communications with our social media team, we are on these 4 platforms that you can subscribe to and join. And that's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. On our Slack, we have this channel, Social Media Engagement. How we use that channel is the social media team will post something in that channel that we want to see promoted and shared. So when you're on Slack and you see a post there, it means take some action, copy that post to your Facebook page, you know, retweet that post on your Twitter account. That's our repository for information that we want to share out there. The Slack channel, that's number 3, comms, is our communications working group channel. So when you want to be part of this working group, or if you want to explore it, join that channel, check out the conversations there, and, you know, just dive in. The content creation channel is also on Slack, and again, join that channel, watch, you know, what's happening there, jump in on the conversations, and before you know it, you're part of the team. So we help with fundraising. That's a huge part of our social media engagement, is because all of the people with these blue hats on Twitter, when they see Money Bomb, they're going to drop in a few dollars and help our candidates. These Money Bomb graphics were made by the content creation team. And this is another graphic made by content creation. We make infographics with the data that we get from, for example, phone dialing sessions. That was an estimated gazillion calls, but it was really true that we made 13,000 dials in one day when we all rallied around Jen Perlman for her campaign in Florida. Now, for the volunteer resources, this is Humanity First Movement and Humanity Forward put together some volunteer resources for to carry us through the next 5 weeks. Is Tom Jeffrey on the call yet? I actually haven't been able to see chat while presenting. Yenny?
Yep, he's here.
Okay, great. Tom? you have the floor. What do you do? Are there any notes in chat from Tom, Yenny? Should I come back to him later?
Tom, you're muted
Oh, okay.
if you're seeing this, hearing us. I just sent him a request to unmute. Maybe
Okay.
that'll. He might have stepped away briefly.
Okay. All right. Will you interrupt me if he shows up? Because again, I can't see chat. So
Yeah.
all right, thanks. Okay, great. So here are some resources we have. The candidate support calendar, the donate links at the Humanity Forward candidate website, a Humanity First channel YouTube playlist that's titled For Phone Bankers that will give you resources. That playlist will open tomorrow. And another resource is the mind of Angelo Mendoza. He is going to present some brilliance that he's lent to the Yang Gang. That will, yeah, just hold on to your hats for that to start. Here we have the candidate support calendar. It's a Google Calendar. You only need to be signed into Google to view it. There. All right. So we have unicorns, which is the symbol for David Kim in California. All the unicorns are his phone banking shifts. The corn is JD Schulten in Iowa. The cactus is calling for Suzanne Hug in Arizona. Here's another cactus. That's when early voting starts in Arizona. That's very soon. Here's an avocado. That's when early voting starts in California. And so on. Early voting is all these purple tags. All of these blue tags are calling for Blair because calling for Blair is self-scheduled. You can call for Blair anytime from 11 to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And Yenny, could you send Angelo, I just got a notification from Angelo, could you send him the link to come into this meeting?
Yeah.
On Messenger? Thank you.
Yeah, I got it.
All right, cool, good. So yeah, where you see the purple, that's basically, so when you see the early voting starts, that's GOTV, that's the Get Out the Vote weekend. Before COVID, Get Out the Vote weekend was November, the first week of November. But now we have Get Out the Vote weekends starting October 4th on that time. Yeah. So it's moving at a rapid pace. All of these next 5 weeks, people are going to be dropping their ballots. Decisions, voters' choices are going to be made much earlier than in previous years. And candidate endorsements. Here is the Humanity Forward page for endorsed candidates. Little wonderful write-up from Yang himself about every candidate and why he's endorsed them. And you've got these great red buttons for their donate link that brings you directly to their, what's called their Act Blue link. And that's where you can donate. Once you make an Act Blue account, they make it really easy to give your money to candidates over and over and over. So, there.
Hey, Tom, I see you unmuted. Are you here?
There we go. Did that work?
Yes.
Oh,
Hello.
fantastic. I am dialed in over the phone, not the internet, and just had to read through the entire Zoom notes that I'd taken a while ago to figure out what the combination was to get unmuted. So here we are. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm going to assume
Have you been
we're
able
doing
to
well.
hear what Colleen's been saying?
Yes, I have.
Okay, cool.
So we just made it through the Humanity Forward donations page, which is extremely exciting. There are more opportunities to give to candidates, to support candidates than ever before. A lot of what we are going to be doing at Humanity Forward is lending our support and elevating and promoting the work that's being done by community members as they jump in and help the candidates. There's a couple key things that I'd like to quickly mention while I've got the floor here. The first is defining what makes a victory. So we are right now in the middle of election season. Some states, actually, I believe South Dakota and a few others, are currently in early voting. So we are at game time. And what that means is that we have to see what is the most important impact we can make. We can win the election by getting someone into office. We can be successful by shifting the Overton window by making universal basic income or other humanity first policies politically palatable, or we can win by activating and mobilizing a group of voters or volunteers that were disenfranchised for whatever reason, disaffected for whatever reason. And realizing that no matter what we do, every single candidate that is on the ballot that we are supporting is someone that can help us achieve those things. So for those that are able to pull off the huge win and get into office, they are going to be the champions that move us forward, and they are able to do it because of your help. But for the many others that are fighting and don't quite pull it off this round, know that you are making such a powerful difference in helping them to shift that Overton window and activate people. It's an extremely powerful thing. No matter what you do, as long as you volunteer, you're making an impact and you're moving this whole movement forward, which is really exciting. I've got to give the world's biggest shout out to Colleen for introducing those 3 ways of winning to me. I think it's a perfect fit for breaking out of the standard political mindset that most of us have of a win or a loss. The next quick thing I'd like to mention that Colleen had alluded to is the other resources that Humanity Forward will start pushing out. So we'll be increasing access to donation links so that we can actually track how much money is coming from the overall movement to each campaign and demonstrate the value that we have. We are assisting with a kind of a candidate one-pager candidate gallery that will give you a quick glimpse into what each and every person is doing. This is something that has been kind of in the building phase for a while with a lot of people, and we're really excited to help lend that support and get that out there. The very last thing I'd like to mention is the importance of finding the 1 to 2 candidates that you care about the most. So it is valuable every time you pick up a phone, or every time you send a text, or every time you go on social media and help a candidate. But when you spread that too thin, you're constantly having to learn new policies, you're having to learn new procedures, you're jumping through all kinds of different Zoom links, which I just showed doesn't always work smoothly. And by going in for all in for just 1 or 2 candidates, you can make a much more significant impact. If that person's in your backyard, your home state or region, then absolutely that's a perfect fit. If for whatever reason the candidate just truly speaks to you and happens to be on the other side of the country, that's fine too. Find those people that are really, truly the candidates that you care the most about and go all in. That's where you make the biggest impact, and we couldn't be more excited for that opportunity. So I will always be available for questions about candidate support. You can email me at tom@movehumanityforward.com. And thank you so much to Yenny, to Colleen, to Brendan and Angelo, and everybody that's on the board. I'm not sure who's on the call right now. I can't tell. But thank you so much for everything that you're doing. And let's see what we can pull off in 36 days.
That's awesome. It's so inspiring and some great directives. Thank you, Tom. Good. So returning to the screen broadcast now. All right. Coming in here, we've got, yes, donate links. We have candidate guides. The link to this guide will be added to this slide presentation. Candidate guides are going to be listed for each candidate, a link to them. So when you look for the candidate guide for Blair, it opens the guide that her campaign made. And this is an awesome guide because each chapter is a link. So these campaigns have worked really hard to help phone bankers and text bankers find information about them. So now Candidate Support Working Group is making this guide compendium. So you can find the guides. Now going through. All right, we've got some active states working for their candidates. California is was volunteering a lot for David Kim. As you saw, his symbol is the unicorn on the California campaign support candidate support calendar. That's the link. The HFM calendar candidates is how you get to that candidate support calendar. Iowa has been volunteering for JD Schulten. In their long game plan is building a relationship with their campaign to build legitimacy for their group. So then because they've created this project, this Humanity Forward questionnaire that they're going to be sharing with candidates, a questionnaire to find out their policy positions and to sort of size up where they fall in their measure of what makes a Humanity Forward candidate. So that's an example of a state project, having these having questionnaires and having their own process for endorsing local candidates. Louisiana chapter set up a Slack for Antoine Pierce's volunteers. They were providing a lot of support for the campaign and hosting phone bank parties. Suzanne Hug, the Humanity Forward Arizona, has been volunteering for several months now on every Wednesday. And their long game is to shock the state of Arizona and to prepare the movement for big gains in the 2022 election cycle. Like Tom was saying, all of these calls do have some impact in the movement. You know, we're shifting the Overton window as we influence voters with data-driven policies, with becoming more open to UBI. So we're here for the long game. 2020 is going to be a big year. 2022 will be our biggest year yet. And 2020, we're going to see how much we grow. Good. Texas is doing something for Donna Imam. Hexel, are you here to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm here to talk about it. Thanks for running that. So there's a couple things that's happened in Texas. Well, there's one thing that's happened, and then one thing that's coming up that's kind of special. So naturally, of course, phone banking is still a big thing, and people can go to votefordonna.com and then volunteer to get involved in that. They just this last week, Andrew and like the Austin Yang gang, they just released an ad. So they actually created an ad for Donna that was just released this past week. They got that trending on Twitter with the Vote for Donna hashtag. And then coming up is a really cool, very clever thing that the API, the Central Texas Asian Democrats have kind of put together for Donna in collaboration with Donna and Andrew Yang. They're having a Dungeons and Dragons fundraiser game featuring Donna and Andrew, and the host of this Netflix show. It's just like Indian love, like it's a popular show, especially among Indians, apparently, Indian Americans, of like finding love. So there's, I'm trying to pull up the event. I'll add it to the link later, but So this not only is this Dungeons and Dragons event going to go on, and it's going to be live streamed on October 12th, so the day before early voting begins, but also I was talking to one of the people who's organizing this down in Austin. They're going to be putting up a new ActBlue link, but they have a bunch of perks for the donations as well. So if you donate something menial like $100, then you get a shout out during the game. If you were to donate like $500, you get an item like named after you in the game, in the Dungeons and Dragons game that they play. And then if you did $1,000, then you would actually be a non-playable character in the Dungeons and Dragons campaign that they run. And so if you wanted to just be a character in Donna Imam's journey to defeat, so naturally, of course, the quote unquote villain or antagonist in this campaign is John Carter, the incumbent that we're trying to unseat. And so that's happening on, in fact, if you give me like 15 seconds of weird, awkward silence while I pull up the webpage. Here we go.
Do you want to drop the link? I can screen share.
Actually, I just now found the page. Okay, so I'm gonna be resharing. If I can, could I share, or do you want me to drop the link?
Oh no, if you can share your screen, do that.
Okay, it's saying host disabled.
I co-hosted you, so you can.
Okay, let me try now. There you go. All right, so you guys, so I'm gonna try to copy this over to our own like Humanity Forward website and social media, so it's easy to access and can kind of proliferate it that way. But right now, the main information is on this Facebook page, and you can see there's already this really like fancy D&D for Dems ad. You can see Andrew and Donna, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, but you can see it's from the Netflix show Indian Matchmaking. So all three of them are going to be on it. And then I think they have the event page on this Facebook page as well. Come on, internet, you can do it. Yeah. And so so I talked to them just yesterday about this. And so in fact, a lot of the people who are SVP are going are people that I invited. But yeah, so this is something that's happening. It's a really cool, really fun way to kind of put her out there as well as to raise money. I mean, they were showing this to me, like I've donated to her campaign, but when they showed that $1,000 for the NPC, I was like, my favorite Andrew Yang quote of all time was something that he said kind of off the cuff to me when he came to Dallas. Like there was like a brief moment where during the fundraiser, like all the people left and there was just this brief moment where we were just in the room together, me, him, Zach, and like a couple other people. And he turns to me and says, "Oh, hey Hexel, I didn't realize this until just now. Your last name is Colorado. It's not where you're from. So your full name is Hexel Colorado? That's a superhero name." And I was like, oh my God. And so now I want to kind of make that come true by like, donating and becoming an actual, like, I don't know, superhero in their D&D game. So that's a big thing that's happening. If you know people who are into, want to support her or, get this out there, or even start like, plugging this with maybe your nerdy or your gaming or your D&D circles. Because this is also a really great way to kind of like, it gives us a hook to kind of promote her outside of the usual people. And so I think this is a really great idea. And this is something that's happening. I wish I could take credit for this, but I have to give all props really to the Asian Dems down there that were putting this together and for pulling Andrew Yang into it.
That is so cool. Wow. Oh, that is so creative. Really is like 2020 is good sometimes. Look at what people are coming up with.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
this is definitely one of those things that was just born out of like innovating under the circumstances. And I think it's a really clever idea. I mean, I'm thinking about like donating an amount I never thought about before because, well, like incentivize more to donate an amount because I really want to be a character in the game.
Yeah, it makes you want to be part of something. It's really a motivator.
Yeah, so the timing is easy to remember, at least if you're in Texas, because October 12th is the live stream, and then October 13th is the early voting. So it's like it makes for a good segue. It's like, okay, guys, not, if you like Donna, like what you saw, go vote for her tomorrow, that kind of thing. So I'll try to add this to the slide because I have to add it to our website too tonight, anyways. So I'll try to get this updated.
Okay. All right, Hexel, is that everything for Texas right now?
The only other thing is I wasn't on the call last week, would have been more apt, but we did have our basic income car parade in Dallas the previous Saturday. And
yeah.
the video is on YouTube. Yeah, so if you want to look up DFW car parade on YouTube, we were pretty happy with it. And so we're looking forward to the retrospective meeting tomorrow because there's a lot of enthusiasm to kind of turn this into our anchor annual event for the year. Because obviously we do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of exciting things we have planned for 2021, but having something that we can kind of point to and say, this is something that's going to happen there's a lot of potential there. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, Texas, you're really an active chapter. So anyone listening, if you're in Dallas, Fort Worth, Antonio, Austin, there is a lot of activity there. And if you're farther flung in other parts of Texas, that, the momentum is building. So whichever you are in that great state, you can reach out to Hexel and get plugged in with this. So Tennessee chapter has a small membership, phone banking for Blair. So she's one of the candidates who is really counting on a lot of people from other states. I'm in New Hampshire. I'm volunteering for this campaign, counting on people from other states to get involved here. So we have text banking every day. And again, as a candidate calendar showed, Monday through Saturday, phone banking, where you can sign up for your own shifts. We're calling Republicans. She's in a very heavily Republican district, and with her policies that are not left, not right, but forward, we're making some convincing arguments that are bringing people, bringing the local voters across the aisle to support universal basic income and other policies that she stands for. So a part of it is that there are a lot of conservative voters who are dissatisfied with the Republican nominee. The Republican nominee hasn't held office before, is not the incumbent. Blair has a really good chance of winning and being the first Democrat or first candidate running as Democrat to hold the seat of Congress in Tennessee in this district in 130 years. So this could be a record-breaking, history-making victory. Be part of that. All right, this brings us to, as I said, candidate resources include the mind of Angelo Mendoza. Angelo has these compelling conservative arguments for UBI. Angelo, please tell us about these arguments, how you came up with them.
Thank you. So I was actually looking at ways to depoliticize UBI and ways that conservatives would get on board. And I realized that UBI actually benefits both parties perfectly. I looked at every conservative core value and how UBI would solve that problem. So just a few that are listed up here on the screen are smaller federal government with more tax dollars coming in organically from just everyday citizens going out and spending more. That means that states are able to balance their budgets better without having to worry about earmarked funds from the federal government. The Second Amendment this one was particularly interesting because as a gun owner myself, I know how expensive firearms, ammunition, range time. Don't have an NRA membership, but I know people that do. Range gear, all that stuff costs an exorbitant amount of money. And I really wanted to point out then, and this can apply to multiple things, but a right is not a right if you can be priced out of it. It is a privilege for the privileged. I also thought about the military. This would be an instant pay raise for all of our troops from E1 to E5 at the very minimum, and everyone along the way. It also would help our troops transition from military to civilian life. One of the biggest problems that we have in the country is homeless veterans. And providing them with a source of income when they leave the military means that they have a resource to survive on while they're looking for a new career, looking for opportunities, or some of our more entrepreneurial veterans possibly creating new opportunities. This is only a small handful of all the arguments that I make in here, but you can click the link on the bottom right-hand corner there and get more information. I have a whole list that covers a variety of topics. So thank you very much, Colleen, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Angelo.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I wanted to ask about the Second Amendment and Humanity Forward Arizona. Is that something that Humanity Forward Arizona has come up with to back as a rationalization for UBI? Is that is that something that Humanity First is going to take on, or what's the scoop, or is it just a presentation of the conservative arguments?
Yeah, certainly, I'd love to answer that. This is entirely from me. Looking at arguments that are compelling to conservatives living in a red state, I actually designed this list originally as arguments to present to Republican Congress members to try and garner support for UBI. As I said, it perfectly aligns with their goals and their core values, as well as many arguments that perfectly align with the Democrat core goals and values.
No, I think I think it's a brilliant piece of work. There's a part of me that feels uncomfortable with it, just because of my reaction to the Second Amendment, and it feels so going against humanity first. But I think that's probably the course of a whole nother discussion where we could probably talk about that till we're blue in the face. But yeah, I don't know. That just kind of struck me. But I totally get it if those are the conservative talking points. But I still feel like for some reason it takes away. I don't know.
This is a great conversation to continue. We're going to have a hang at 9:30 or approximately 9:30 when this presentation is complete. And that's this is a great conversation to continue there. Thank you so much for bringing in your question to start it.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah. So a note on that bit.ly link, I'm afraid is broken, but I'll fix that after the presentation so that the bit.ly link will work. Okay. All right. So we've got 3 types. I will run you through. This is the part of the presentation, the last part about how to make phone banking fun. We have 3 types of phone bank sessions, 3 types of dialing systems, a myriad of voter audiences, the 3 types of victories that already Tom told us about, and taking the first step. So this is the first step. To change the world, you need to change yourself, which for us, many of us means conquering your fears around phone banking. Social anxiety, fear of rejection. There's a lot of emotions that are blockers for us to phone bank. And because of COVID, we can't do those more comfortable in-person canvassing operations. So it's really heavy on phone banking. You can do it. We all can do it. You can do it once. Just at least try it. Get over your fear. You'll grow as a person. This is an opportunity to break through walls. So stay for the hang. I'll give you some expert tips. Like I said earlier, when I pointed out the community calendar, I teach meditation, and I have meditations for bringing calm and reducing anxiety, and also very simple yoga that I can teach you to do coming up before your phone banking shift, ways that you can rewire your brain and set yourself up for emotionally successful phone banking. So message me on Slack to make the schedule, because we have a lot of different phone banking shifts we're working on. So the schedule is being drawn. It's going to be based on your feedback. So let me know if you're interested in a meditation or yoga session to occur regularly, and we'll make that schedule. Good. So I'm going to go off screen share for a minute now and just speak from the heart about phone banking. So here we've got 3 kinds of sessions. There's voter ID phone banking, and that's when it's getting the voter to identify the candidate. You basically call and you just want to say the candidate's name before they hang up. You know, hi, I'm calling for, say, Blair Walsingham. You try to get their name out 3 times. Blair is running to represent us in Congress. Do you have a minute to hear about Blair's policies? And then they hang up on you, but you've done it. You've done your work. You've told them her name 3 times. So that's the phone banking we're doing for Blair right now, is voter ID. That's the first round of phone banking. We're doing voter ID for Republicans. If you're new at it, that's an easy entry point. The next stage in phone banking is voter persuasion. That's when you're going to talk to voters who have seen the mailers, who have maybe seen an ad, and you're going to go more in depth about policies to persuade them. That's where the candidate guides are going to be more important to understand their policy positions. That's where Angelo's conservative arguments for UBI, for calling for Blair and Donna are going to be, and Suzanne Hugg are going to be very helpful. This is harder to do and more exciting to do. As you get to really know policies and be someone who just loves talking policies, you'll really like doing voter persuasion calls. The last round of calls is GOTV calls, get out the vote calls. And that's when you're calling mostly people who already have been recorded as supporting the candidate, and you're calling to make sure they voted. So that's a nice way to call, because you're mostly calling people who appreciate hearing from you, because you're the volunteer they like. You're the volunteer supporting the candidate they support. And because we have early voting, GOTV calls are going to start happening for Suzanne Hugg and David Kim next weekend. So that's another great entry point for phone banking, calling the people who are happy to hear from you. Next, there are 3 types of dialing systems that are being used now. There's Through Talk, Hub Dialer, and Open VPB. I happen to choose campaigns based on what dialer system they use. So it's helpful to know which dialer system campaigns are using, which can help you help you plan out what might be a better phone bank session for you. Through Talk dials automatically through your computer. Open VPB is you're looking at a screen that has the person's name and their phone number, and you manually dial their number with Open VPB, Open Virtual Phone Bank. So you manually dial it into your phone, or if you're using a Google Voice account, you can dial from your computer, where you can just copy paste the number, and that's a lot easier way to do it. A tip, if you're going to use Google Voice and Open VPB to call for, say, Marilyn Strickland in Washington or Antoine Pierce in Louisiana, get a Google Voice number with an area code local to where you're calling, and people are more likely to pick up. So that's OpenVPV. Hub Dialer and ThruTalk both automatically dial for you. Blair uses Hub Dialer. With Hub Dialer, it doesn't really matter how many people are calling at once. That doesn't really change the speed of the call connections. You'll have a wait time between calls. Hub Dialer has hold music. I like it. I fall asleep to it. It's calming. ThruTalk doesn't have hold music. ThruTalk, the dialing goes faster and there's less wait time between calls when there are more people on it. So that's why people using ThruTalk, like David Kim's campaign, will have concentrated phone banking shifts with usually Zoom parties, because there are more people on the dialer at once. So those are the different systems and the benefits of the different ones. And last, the myriad audiences that you phone bank for. You'll find some good experiences and some not as good experiences phone banking, and you might find a pattern with that, depending on maybe who's the audience that you're calling. Depending on the audience, you'll find, some audience you might be more comfortable calling. David Kim, if you speak Korean, then you're going to talk to a lot of Korean speakers in his district in Los Angeles. And if you speak English, you'll be talking to a lot of Democrats. In his race, it's a Democrat against Democrat, establishment Democrat who's been there a long time, and progressive upstart David Kim. So you'll be talking to Democrats who've been previously supporting an establishment candidate, whether they know that or not. If you're calling for Blair Walsingham, you're calling Republicans. It's a harder sell. It's really exciting and rewarding when you get that sell. Then what's another example? Yeah, there are more. If you want to learn more about the different audiences that are being reached, you can contact Candidate Support Channel in the Slack, and we'll have more information for you about what types of calls are happening on which campaigns, so you can see what is going to be your comfort zone, what is most exciting and rewarding to you. So I saw, are there any questions? I saw some stuff come up in chat. Does anyone have was that any questions on what I've just talked about, or are we good? Okay, I'm going to go back to broadcast and see what we have left here on our slides. Hey, it's the hang. So here we are. We are 8 minutes early for our hang now. Given that time, I'd like to make 2 requests. See if there are any questions about our game plan for the general election. And also ask Yenny, could you make a breakout room for where I can introduce some of the yoga and meditation for preparing for phone banking, so people who want to drop into that Zoom room can get a little bit of a little preview of what those sessions will be. Is that going to work, Yenny?
Yeah, I can do that.
All right.
Are we all done with the meeting part itself? Should I go off of?
We are done. We have time to take questions if there are questions.
Anyone? Bueller?
Bueller.
Do people in here at least get that reference?
I don't know.
I'm too young.
Gang is a young crowd.
Yeah. If you got questions, shout them out.
Brian did put a question in the chat that says, what happens after the election?
Ooh, I have the answer for this.
Go for it.
Do it, Gray.
I see us after the election getting a lot of community service work in. I know that I particularly was drawn to this movement because we're putting our money or our effort where our mouth is when it comes to, creating the country we want to live in. And so I know at least in Massachusetts, once things clear up with COVID, trying to do a lot of things to address some of the lack of humanity we see when it comes to houseless people, doing some of the democratic reform that will be necessary around the country. I know that getting ranked choice voting as a ballot initiative is something that can be driven by citizens in like 25 of the 50 states. So I imagine that, no small number of us will be working on that sort of initiative. And then also some of the educational piece that, learning from groups like the Yes on 2 or Voter Choice is the organization doing ranked choice voting. So learning about voter education and putting forward some of the programs for that when it comes to universal basic income will be an important step for us as well.
Nice. That's a great answer, Gray.
Sounds good, definitely.
In the immediate after the election, I think we're going to probably have a day-long hang on, probably starting with a watch party, seeing results come in November 4th, and maybe have a Zoom room open all night to process whatever the heck happens. That's kind of how we roll.
And maybe one long meeting.
Yeah, we hang late. Again, we're across 6 time zones here.
Yeah, there's also going to be a Testify for UBI initiative that's going on. I don't know if Hannah or Angela wanted to chime in about that.
Yeah, so for those that don't know what Testify for UBI is, myself and Hannah have actually started recruiting people to lead a team of both average people and expert testimony to testify before Congress on the benefits of UBI. We're looking for people from all walks of life, all different economic statuses. So this way we can actually give a pretty fair cross-section of the United States. One of the biggest things that we wanted to do with this testimony, which is why we've recruited Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Green Party, etc., is we want to depoliticize this issue and not allow Congress to use UBI like a political football. So we're working very carefully to make sure that both sides of the aisle see it as a benefit and both of them see it as politically catastrophic to try to avoid doing. I don't know if Hannah wanted to speak more to it.
Yeah, I guess I can just talk about some of the partnerships that we have. So we're working with Humanity Forward. We have a meeting with Erica tomorrow. Income Movement has been instrumental in advising us. And we recently had a meeting with Giselle from Fund for Humanity. And this week we also have a meeting with Magnolia Mothers Trust. So it's really exciting. We're getting into meetings with a lot of big players in the UBI world. So yeah, hopefully we have a good number of partnerships and we're able to get this going. It's possible that it's going to take years because getting into Congress is not easy, but we do feel the urgency of trying to get it into Congress as soon as possible since the situation is pretty dire. So yeah, thanks for following along with it.
And in this era of COVID, it sort of accelerated many of the issues that make UBI necessary. We do have some expert testimony like Carl Winderquist and Scott Santons. And one of the goals is also relatability. We want to get as much news coverage as we can on this so people at home watching the news feel at least one of the speakers is relatable to them and makes them have pause and think twice about UBI because they will see the benefits in themselves and feel a sense of ownership of it. So it's a multi-tiered goal, but one that I think that we can do together. We're also working on making sure that we can maintain the news cycle afterward with a project called My UBI Story, which after our testimony, we're going to be asking other people of the community to put up their own videos explaining how UBI would benefit them to keep the conversation going.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that was that whole project Angelo started, something more from the mind of Angelo Mendoza. You're such a key player in this movement, Angelo.
Well, I can't take full credit for it. It was myself and Hannah that came up with it together.
And Hannah together. Yeah, the mind of Hannah Wan. The minds together. It's great.
Hey, Angelo, hi everybody. Hey, Angelo, we during UBI March week, we were up in Austin, and we did a project on the street corner in downtown Austin, exactly what you just mentioned. You know, what would you do? What would you do with this money or something? But what I wanted to let you know is that we have some content that might be helpful for what you just said for your after thing, that it's already there from that project.
Oh, excellent. I'm thrilled to hear that. We'll keep in touch. And like I said, me and Hannah are working on trying to get this, done and accomplished, because once we have the national news, that's when we want to make sure that we hit them hard and keep it going. So this way, Congress really does feel the pressure on them. So thank you for letting me know that. I'm very appreciative.
Yeah, it's folks writing on posters what they would do with $2,000 if they had it. And, we got some good video of it and stuff like that. So it might be helpful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yenny, as we switch to the hang, would you actually make a breakout room for what we might call the secular hang? And could we have the meditation for calmness before phone banking little tutorial in the main room so it can stay on the recording?
We can record the side rooms too.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll make a side room for a little introduction on 2 types of meditation and some simple yoga practice that you can do to prepare for phone banking and to get over your blockers and be, oh my gosh, those baby mice, and get over your blockers and, be your best self. And
so adorable.
An awesome volunteer.
Oh, tiny.
Nicholas, do you want to tell us about the baby mouse?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Okay. So I was